Hey guys, it's Yvonne, and today I'm going to be filming my February and March wrap-up. I know it's a little late, don't come for me, it's gonna be fine. I just wanted to catch up on doing these videos because I really wanted to do wrap-up videos for every month, even though I'm combining 2 months in this video. You know what, it's fine. I don't care that it's 3 months late, I'm just afraid that you will, so whatever. But I really just didn't want to film what I had planned to film today because that required me being articulate and my brain is just elsewhere. I'm currently in the middle of doing my end of the year projects, and if you're one of those people that thinks that just because it's quarantine school that it's not real school, I beg to differ because I have to do like 3 projects, and one of them is a 10-page essay about Michelangelo and how he was a humanist, so... But yeah, I'm currently in the midst of writing that. You don't care, but I just wanted to film this video. It's gonna be super low-key. I'm sitting on my floor, and I know a lot of people probably don't know that I have this bookshelf. I do. If you don't watch my vlogs, then you probably have no idea that I have this. But it's on the other side of my room, so the bookshelf that I like film in front of usually is over there. Just watch my vlogs and you will understand. Oh, but you can also see my TBR cart, which I didn't notice. But it's fine. I actually really like how this bookshelf is organized, so I'm gonna sit here more often. But instead of just talking at you and having to hold up books, because apparently that is too much for me to handle, I am going to be doing needlepoint, and if you don't know what needlepoint is, you can look it up, because I don't really know how to describe it, but I'm just going to be doing this. I'm going to try to finish this, and I have the yarn and stuff here. So yeah, let me open up my Goodreads so that I can actually know what I'm talking about. But yeah, also the reason that I'm not doing my April wrap-up too is because I vlogged for the entire month of April, so just watch those and you'll get like my in-depth thoughts. And then I will be filming a May wrap-up sometime soon. Maybe I'll include it with a June wrap-up, I don't know, but let's just get into this. Okay, so the first book that I read in the month of February was The Magnificent Monsters of Cedar Street by Lauren Oliver, and I was sent this book for review from HarperCollins, so thank you so much to them. But this book just came out, or it came out in February, and it is a middle grade novel that is about a girl named Cordelia who lives in Boston in the early 1900s, and she lives with her father in this manor called something Street Manor, and it is basically her and her father do this thing where they take in sick monsters and they basically just treat them. And her father is a doctor, and her mother, Elizabeth Clay, was killed on like an expedition in South America or something like that. And then one day, almost all of the monsters in the manor, and as well as Cordelia's father, go missing, and she teams up with one of the kids that lives in the town to go and find him. But, I enjoyed this book. I think I gave it 3 stars. I gave it 4 stars, like, right after I read it, but honestly, I think I would lower that rating, because it wasn't, like, my favorite middle grade book. I read better middle grade books, and even though I'm not the target audience, I feel like when I was a kid, this would just be, like, a book that I would like, but it wouldn't be, like, one of those books that I would reread, like, a million times, like I used to do when I read middle grade books. But this was a cute book. I liked the story. This is probably my favorite Lauren Oliver book that I've ever read. Or no, Broken Things is my favorite. But, yeah, so I thought this book was okay. Not my favorite, but I would recommend it if you like middle grade books. I mean, it was... honestly, I thought this was going to be relaxing, but I am stressed. Okay, so essentially, yeah, I gave it 3 stars, and I would recommend it if you like middle grade. Would I reread it in the future? Probably not, but I still think it was an interesting read, and I would not steer you away from picking it up. The next book that I read was The Dazzling Heights by Katharine McGee, which is a YA sci-fi book, I guess you could call it. It's basically Gossip Girl in the future.
It's a world changer. It's a roadmap to the future.
It is about these 5 main characters that live in 2118 in New York City, where everybody lives in this 1,000-story building. And, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention it's the sequel to The 1,000th Floor. But yeah, everyone lives in this 1,000-story building, and there is drama and characters, and stuff happens. I enjoy this series. It's really just something that you can read when you have no brain cells, like I do right now. But it's interesting, I guess. It's really just fun. It's like a soap opera. It's basically just really trashy, and you can read it whenever you want, and it's not good, but it is good. I really like it, so yeah, I ended up giving that book 3 stars, and I will continue on with the series. There's one more book after this one, and then she also has another series that I am also interested in getting my hands on at some point. Okay, then the next book that I read was The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu, which is a YA historical fiction novel that follows Mozart's sister named Nannerl, and I actually got an arc of this book, so that's why I was able to read it early.
They gonna hate me regardless. That's why I do what I do.
But I really enjoyed this book. I found it super fun to read. But I really, really enjoyed this book. I think the characters were really interesting to read about. I think the world that Marie Lu created, because Nannerl wants to be remembered forever, and so she makes this deal with the princeling of this place called the Kingdom of Back, that she will do what he desires, and in exchange, she will be able to be remembered forever. And I think the way that that reality blended with the fantasy stuff was really, really well done. I love Marie Lu as a writer. I think she is super talented, and I love her descriptions. I really enjoyed Nannerl as a character. I think she was super interesting to follow, and her struggle was really interesting. I think that it really shed a light on how women in history were sort of sidelined, and since she was the brother of Mozart, and also she was a woman at this time, she was allowed to compose only until she was 18, and then she would have to get married and live with her husband and stuff like that. I think Marie Lu did an amazing job with showing how Nannerl was struggling and what she was feeling like inside. But I do think that this book could have been fleshed out more. I think it could have been 50 to 100 pages longer than it was. It was just over 300 pages, and I feel like a lot of it was rushed. We didn't really get to see a lot of stuff happen. It happened really, really quickly, the ending, and then we just skipped at the end to like when she's 40 years old or something, and it didn't have the emotional impact that I think Marie Lu was trying to give, if that makes any sense. But I originally gave this book 5 stars, but then I lowered it to 4 stars because it wasn't my favorite. I didn't love it, so yeah, that's why. But I think if you are interested in historical fiction and you're interested in learning about a person in history that was sort of forgotten about, I think you would really, really enjoy this book, and also it has a really nice cover, so that's always a plus. After that, I picked up the Scythe Trilogy by Neal Schusterman, which is a trilogy about these characters. It's like a sci-fi book-ish, kind of dystopian, about it takes place in this world where people don't die anymore, like, disease has been eradicated, and people don't die of old age anymore. And so there are these people called Scythes who are tasked to keep the population, together, if that makes any sense. And they, the two main characters, Citra and Rowan, are basically, they become apprentices to one of these scythes, and stuff happens. So, I enjoyed this book. I'm sorry if I'm, playing with this thing. It keeps falling out of the eye, and I, am so frustrated, but it's fine. I didn't like this series as much as people have. Can I even speak English? Okay. I think it was okay. I gave book 1 3 stars, book 4 4 stars, and book 3 3 stars as well. I think it's very okay. I really just don't have anything, of value to say about it. I just didn't really enjoy it that much. It was not my favorite. I think it was pretty bland, and I didn't really like how Citra and Rowan weren't even that important in book 3. I just didn't really like this series. I might reread it in the future just because I feel like I missed something, and that is so annoying when you feel like you've missed something. But I don't know if that's just because it's popular and maybe I didn't like it, or just because I was not in the right headspace to read it when I did. But I don't really know if I would recommend it, but I think it was interesting. I would definitely like to see more of Citra and Rowan in book 3, though, because I feel like they were kind of pushed to the sidelines. Then I reread 2 of my absolute favorite books of all time, The Gilded Wolves and Silvered Serpents by Roshni Chokshi. This is a historical fiction series that follows a man, primarily named Severin, who is a hotelier in France in 1889, and he basically gets the opportunity to win back his inheritance if he tracks down this magical artifact that has been lost by, the Order, which is sort of the magic governing people in the society, in France. And he gets a bunch of people, and they all come together, and it's kind of like Six of Crows, but it's also not. I would say this is more like the Da Vinci Code, actually, but I love this series with all my heart. The characters are so interesting to read about. I literally read about these characters going to IKEA and give it 5 stars. I just think this series is one of the best in YA, and I adore these books. I think that I understand why some people might not like it, but I don't agree with them. I think it is such an interesting story, and I love the setting of the second book. In book 2, we go to St. Petersburg, Russia, and it is just such an interesting setting. I love this series to death, and you need to pick it up. And even if you don't really like historical fiction, I think you would enjoy it. If you like puzzles and sifting through clues, kind of, then I think you would really, really like this book and this series. Then I read Dear Ijeawele, or A Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This is basically just Feminism 101. Feminism 101. And I read her other book that's similar to this, We Are Feminists, or We Are All Feminists, or We All Are Feminists, something like that. And I gave it 3 stars. I didn't really like it that much. I thought it was just a kind of basic feminism. I am definitely not an expert on feminism, but I know what it is. And I feel like these books are just like Feminism 101. And I'm able to forgive it with this book more, because this Chimamanda is like sending these 15 suggestions to her friend in Nigeria, I believe, and she's like, these are the things that I want you to teach your daughter when she grows up. And that I kind of understand, because it's like, I mean, I don't really understand, because I'm like, a lot of the things that she says are like things to do, like feminist manifestos. I'm just like this is just very baseline, like everybody, it's like girls should be able to play sports, or they can wear whatever they want, and I'm like, yeah, obviously, like this isn't groundbreaking news, but yeah, I don't think this book is pointless, because I feel like you could give it to someone that literally knows nothing about feminism, but for me, someone who is pretty well acquainted with it, I just feel like this was kind of pointless. To me, at least. So, I gave that one 3 stars as well. Okay, so I stabbed myself. We're not gonna do this anymore because I need to pay more attention to it. I can't, like, talk at the same time because I'm, like, bad at multitasking, apparently. But the last book that I read in February was The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell. It is a, like, okay, basically, we follow this girl named Esta who can time travel, and basically she is set up by her professor, I think his name is, to go to the Gilded Age, New York, to steal this book that has, like, the key to magic, and to bring down this brink, which has gone around New York that, like, nobody can leave, or something like that. I honestly don't remember. But, yeah. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I think this is one that I do need to reread sometime in the future, because I just didn't read it at the right time, and also I was kind of rushing to read it, so I don't think I got, like, the experience that was intended. But I gave it 4 stars. It was good. I definitely want to revisit the story so that I can sort of absorb it in as best a way as possible. But it was fun. I liked it. The characters were interesting. I love historical fiction. I love how this didn't put the, like, it didn't, like the Gilded Age did, it didn't put, nothing was gilded. That's what I'm trying to say. The author didn't shy away from talking about the horrors that went down at this time, in the early 1900s, in New York City. So, it was sort of like The Diviners in that, where the author did not have a fear of shedding light on the terrible things that happened at this time. Then, the first book that I read in March was The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black, which I have right here. And I gave this book 4 stars as well. It's the 3rd book in the Folk of the Air trilogy. A lot of people love this series, for reasons I don't really understand. I think it's good, but it's definitely not my favorite series of all time, like a lot of people crown it to be. I think it is good. I enjoy the books. I have fun while I'm reading them. But there's nothing really, like, driving me to ever want to reread them, ever, so I think they're fine. I definitely like Holly Black as a writer. I like the world of The Cruel Prince, and I like Jude as a main character, but this series is just not as good to me as so many people make it out to be. So, I enjoy it. It's basically about this girl named Jude, who, when she was younger, she and her sisters were taken to the Fae courts by this man named Matic, and he basically becomes their new father, and then while Jude is there, it's like 10 years later or something, she has to contend with the Prince Carden in the fairy courts, who is like the cruel prince, you know, and she basically has to just go through the web of politics that happens in fairy. So, a lot of people love Jude and Carden. I don't really care for them. I think they're an interesting couple, but they're not, like, the driving force of this book for me. The driving force is the world, because I am a sucker for world building. I like the characters individually, but their romance is just not something that really, really hooks me. This book was an interesting experience. It's definitely my least favorite in the trilogy. It was sort of weird. It was really slow in the beginning, and then it became so fast-paced at the end that I literally had whiplash when I was reading this book. I think it was well-crafted, but this book easily could have been this book could have easily been like 450 pages. So I think Holly Black should have definitely fleshed out the ending more and given us some more story, because I feel like we were kind of robbed with this finale. But she is writing, like, another novella in the series or something, which, I mean, I don't really care that much, but, I will read it. Then, the next stuff I read, the next 10 books that I read were the books in, the next 9 books that I read. Yeah, the next 9 books that I read in the month were my reread of all the Shatter Me books and novellas. So I read Shatter Me, Destroy Me, Unravel Me, Fracture Me, Ignite Me, Restore Me, Shadow Me, Defy Me, and Reveal Me. I've read all of these books at least once. Now, well, this is my second... Okay. This is either my second or fourth time reading all of these books. And I really, really like this series. Y'all know this because I have like a million Shatter Me videos, but I reread all of these in preparation for the next book, the finale in the series, Imagine Me, which came out at the end of the month, and I do have a reading vlog for, which I will link in the description box below if you are interested. I gave Shatter Me 5 stars, Destroy Me 4 stars, Unravel Me 5 stars, it's my favorite in the series, Fracture Me 3 stars, Ignite Me 5 stars, Restore Me 5 stars, Shadow Me 3 stars, Defy Me 4 stars, and Reveal Me 2 stars. But yeah, I don't think I can say anything about this series that won't be like me beating it over the head. So we're just gonna move on. The next book that I read was House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, which is like right here. And I gave this book 4 stars. It is Sarah J. Maas's most recent novel, and it is an adult novel, even though, like, all of her books are pretty adult. This is, like, I honestly don't understand why this book is adult and her others are not, because this book doesn't even have that many, sex scenes. This literally doesn't have any more graphic content than Akamath or Akawar. So, I don't really understand why it's adult, but, the only thing that makes this book adult is the excessive cursing. I really don't think there needed to be as much cursing in this book as there was, but whatever. This is basically about a woman named Bryce Quinlan who lives in this fictional city called Crescent City, which is essentially just New York City, and there are all these different species, and her best friend Danica, who is a wolf, essentially is killed. Her and her wolf pack are killed. She and her wolf pack are killed. And then stuff happens, and Bryce teams up with this archangel named Hunt Athalar, and they basically just figure out who murdered Danica. And that's basically the whole book for 800 pages. I actually enjoyed this book way more than I thought I would. I thought I was going to give it 3 stars maximum, because the last couple Sarah J. Maas books that I read were not my favorite. And I just kind of had low expectations going in. But I came out really enjoying this book. I didn't give it like 5 stars or anything. As I said, I give it 4. But I really enjoyed it. I think some scenes could have been trimmed down. It didn't need to be 800 pages. I think it could have been 700. But I'm not really mad at the length, because, I mean, it's Sarah J. Maas. She writes long books. But, I mean, it's fine. And I enjoyed it. I think the characters were interesting. I'm really excited for the sequel, even though it's probably not coming out for, like, a year and change, but that's fine. I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to stop talking about it because I don't really have anything else to say. Then the next 2 books that I read were the final 2 books in the Throne of Glass series, which I have right here, Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I was sort of just on a Sarah J. Maas kick, and I was like, you know what, let me finish the Throne of Glass series. So I have an interesting experience with Throne of Glass. I enjoyed The Assassin's Blade. Well, first I read Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight in, like, April of 2018, and I gave them both 5 stars. Then I read Heir of Fire and Assassin's Blade, which I really enjoyed, but then Queen of Shadows and Empire of Storms were, like, not good. I really just disliked Empire of Storms. I thought it was really unnecessary, and I think it could have been... I think Queen of Shadows and Empire of Storms could have been, like, one book if they were... Actually, no. I feel like they both could have been just, like, 400 pages if they were shortened. Like, there were so many scenes that were just so random, and I was like, this doesn't need to be here. And, yeah, so I didn't really enjoy those. But, let me tell you, I bamboozled myself because I gave Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash both 5 out of 5 stars. I don't really give 5 out of 5 star ratings a lot. I just don't really give them a lot. And I enjoyed it. I'm going to stop doing this. I know I said I was stopping before, but I started again, but I'm going to stop because I ran out of string and I don't feel like cutting another piece. But I loved Tower of Dawn. I kind of expected to give it, like, as I said with, like, Crescent City, 3 stars. I like Kale, but I feel like Cassandra Clare, who I feel like Sarah J. Maas kind of butchered his character at the, in Queen of Shadows and Empire... No, he wasn't even in Empire of Storms. Am I okay? I just was not that excited to read it. But let me tell you, I gave this book 5 stars. I loved it. I loved the addition of Irene, and I loved Nesrin and Sartak's story. I think this was the most, like, quintessential fantasy book. It was, like, the most fantasy out of all the other books. They rode, like, these creatures called rooks or something like that, and I thought they were so cool. I honestly just want to see fan art of those, because I think they're so interesting. But I loved this book. It was so good. I loved that it was, like, almost 700 pages, because I was like, yes, if this was a novella, it wouldn't have been as good. I loved this book. So yeah, I gave it 5 stars, and I honestly surprised myself. And then I read Kingdom of Ash, which I gave 5 stars as well. Honestly, this was one of the best finales I've ever read. And I knew Sarah J. Maas would not disappoint me with this series. It started off strong, we got a little rocky in the middle, but she pulled through with the end. I loved this book. I loved all the perspectives. There are like a million of them, but I think they were woven so amazingly throughout this book. Unlike Crescent City, I do think this book needed to be as long as it did. Like, it was almost 1,000 pages, and it needed to be that long. I loved this book so much. I loved every second. I read it in 2 days. I read, like, basically 500 pages for 2 days. And let me just tell you, this series, like, push through Queen of Shadows and Empire of Storms, please. Because you will not be upset when you get to Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash. It is so good. I loved it. Might be my favorite book in the series. I don't know. If you want me to do, like, a full review of this series, let me know, because I would be happy to. But yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about it because it was so good. I loved it. Okay, and then the last book in this entire video that I will be talking about is Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. I gave this book 3 stars. It's, like, more of a 2.5. I just didn't care about it. It was so random. I don't think it needed to be written. Sorry, but I just think Leah was an interesting character in Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, but in this one, she was just so annoying. Like, I really wish, also her love interests, like, I did not care for them. I think it would have been so much more interesting if, instead of backtracking what we learned in Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda and trying to make them a love interest, instead just having a new person come to school and Leah falling in love with them. I feel like that would have been so much better. So, yeah, I don't really understand why this book was written the way that it was. I feel like the book could have existed, but I just really didn't like the way that it was written. So, yeah, also there were just some quotes that I was very uncomfortable reading, but there were also some scenes that made me uncomfortable and some quotes, and you can read in my Goodreads review where I had, like, a specific quote, and it's way better articulated than I will be able to say in this video right now, because I feel like if I say it, it will literally make 0 sense. But check my Goodreads review, because I put, like, the exact quote and stuff like that. There were multiple quotes, but anyway. I just think this book was kind of pointless. I will read the novella, because I apparently hate myself, but, yeah, I didn't really enjoy this book. I didn't have a fun time reading it, and I feel like I shouldn't have wasted my time, and instead I should have just read another contemporary book that I would have enjoyed more. But that is it for my February and March wrap-up. I hope you enjoyed. It's a long one, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed. All my social media links are in the description box below. I will be filming a May and probably June wrap-up, but I will definitely be filming a wrap-up for May and for June. I just don't know if they will be separate if the review, or if they will be, like, one video. So, stay tuned for that. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!